In the late 1970s and early 1980s, this company created an industry that simply did not exist before. It turned video games from a niche hobby into the biggest pop culture phenomenon on the planet, and its market value grew at cosmic speed. Every American family dreamed of having their console in the living room. It seemed like this giant would rule the entertainment world forever. But in just a couple of years, this company managed not only to go bankrupt, but to trigger a catastrophe that almost destroyed the entire video game industry on the planet. How did a brand that controlled 80% of the market lose everything due to pure greed and arrogance, eventually burying millions of its game cartridges in the desert? This is the story of the incredible rise and humiliating fall of Atari. It all begins in 1972. Engineer Nolan Bushnell creates Atari and releases the iconic arcade game Pong, a simple table tennis simulator made of 2 lines and a dot. The game becomes a massive hit. Pong arcade machines placed in bars literally jammed with coins to the point where they broke from being overfilled. Atari proved to the world you can make huge money on video games. The real breakthrough happens in 1977 when Atari releases the home console, Atari 2600. This was a revolution. People no longer had to go to arcades. They could swap cartridges and play dozens of different games right at home. Sales skyrocketed. By the early 80s, Atari became the fastest growing company in US history, with revenues exceeding $2 billion. Management drowned in luxury, and investors believed this money train would never stop. But right at the peak of success, a disaster begins inside Atari. The company falls under the control of media giant Warner Communications, and the new bosses decide to squeeze every last drop out of the brand. They start treating programmers like disposable tools. Engineers were not paid royalties for successful games, and their names were not even included in the credits. Insulted developers resign en masse and create their own studios, the first of which was Activision. Having lost its best talent, Atari's management makes a fatal mistake. They open their platform to everyone and stop controlling the quality of games. The market is instantly flooded with a massive wave of absolute garbage and low-quality knockoffs. Buyers go to stores, spend huge money on cartridges, and find unplayable junk inside. Public trust in video games begins to rapidly collapse. The final nails in the coffin are 2 specific projects, blinded by management greed. In 1982, Atari releases an adaptation of the hit arcade game Pac-Man. The game was so unfinished and visually terrible that out of 12 million manufactured cartridges, millions remained gathering dust in warehouses. But for the bosses, that wasn't enough. Riding the wave of Steven Spielberg's movie E.T., Atari spends a fortune to buy the rights to make an E.T. game. Management gives developers an insane deadline: make the game in just 6 weeks to hit the Christmas shopping season. As a result, the worst game in video game history was born. E.T. was completely unplayable. The main character constantly glitched through textures and died. The company produced 5 million E.T. cartridges hoping for massive sales. But people, after trying the game, returned it to stores in droves. Atari ended up with millions of unsold plastic boxes in their warehouses, paying huge amounts just to store them. To hide the scale of the disaster, Atari sends dozens of trucks filled with cartridges into the New Mexico desert at night, crushes them with bulldozers, pours concrete over them, and buries them in the ground. The story of the buried games was long considered an urban legend, until excavations in 2014 confirmed it as fact. These mistakes triggered the infamous video game crash of 1983. The console market collapsed by 97%. Investors and stores decided that video games were just a passing fad that had died forever. Atari's revenues plummeted, the company suffered hundreds of millions of dollars in losses, and was eventually split up and sold for pennies. The story of Atari is a clear lesson in what happens when corporate managers and greed win over quality and respect for the customer. Having built an entire industry, Atari poisoned it herself, making way for new giants like Nintendo. What do you think killed Atari more, the terrible quality of the ET game or corporate greed? Write your opinion in the comments. This was the Rise Lab project. See you in the next stories.